Good evening and welcome to the third in a series of forums with candidates for office for the November 7th elections that is being brought to you by Cayuga Community College in partnership with The Citizen. I'm your moderator, Guy Cosentino. On November 7th, voters throughout Cayuga County will get to vote for all new members of the Cayuga County Legislature because the legislature will be reduced from 15 to 11 members starting on January 1st. With that, there are 6 races we can consider competitive, and we hope to bring you the candidates for all of those races over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And we're continuing that process tonight with the 10th Legislative District. Currently, Legislator Tricia Kerr, who represents the current 12th Legislative District in the City of Auburn, has decided not to seek re-election. The newly configured 10th Legislative District, that is in the southeast quadrant of the City of Auburn, is therefore up for grabs. An open seat with Stephanie DeVito facing Michael Pendergrass, and they're sitting in the order that they drew lots for. With these 11 new election districts, control of the legislature that is currently with the majority Republicans, with a coalition of Republicans, conservatives, and non-aligned members, could change this January, depending on these elections. Representing the press today is Robert Harding, the political reporter for The Citizen, who has been with us for the last several weeks asking questions and taking over for Jeremy Boyer, who has moved on to the Post-Standard. Mr. Harding, welcome back to the studio. Delighted to have you here to ask your questions. Prior to the program, we drew lots and flipped a coin to see who would be giving their 2-minute opening and then closings in reverse order. And the candidates are sitting, as I said, in the order that they are going to speak. We have Stephanie DeVito, who is on the Democratic and Working Families line, and Michael Pendergrass, who's on the Republican and Conservative lines. We want to welcome them both to the studio. As I said, you have a little 2 minutes for your opening statements. We'll start with Stephanie DeVito on the Democratic and Working Families line. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you to CCC for putting this all together. By the end of this year, as director of the Auburn Business District, I will have brought in 13 new businesses, and this wave of tax revenue can only grow if you choose to elect me. The fact is, I am good for business. Under my leadership and with my proven track record, Cayuga County can experience this level of growth. I have begun to create forward momentum, and when properly equipped, particularly with this office, this momentum could cascade into genuine prosperity. We have the opportunity to leave something behind, like those who came before us. My experiences have allowed me to create relationships all throughout our local government, from city to county and state. I know the right people to get the job done. I also have significant outreach with local businesses and our community. If you don't know me, chances are you probably are aware of one of the many events or businesses that I have brought into our community. Here's just one example of what I have done for you. I created a gift card program for our bid district, which generated over $300,000 in revenue. That is in addition to the thousands of dollars in new revenue and the more than a dozen new businesses that I have attracted. The following is a brief overview of my community service: the City of Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals, the City Juneteenth Committee, the YMCA Board of Directors, the Micron Workforce Development Committee, the New York State Bid Committee, the Leadership Cayuga Advisory Council, Booker T. Washington Community Center Board Member, the United Way Advocacy and Outreach Chair, and soon to be the board member of the Finger Lakes Tourism Alliance Board, and the recipient of the Community Leadership Award. As many as my accomplishments may be, there is still more work to be done. And with that, I am looking forward to getting this debate started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. DeVito. We'll now hear from Michael Pendergrass, who is on the Republican and Conservative lines. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you very much. I am Mike Pendergrass, and I'm running for county legislator because I believe I can help our county prosper, and I would like to leave it a better place for our future generations to live in. I'm a lifelong resident of Auburn. I was born in District 10, and I've lived in my home in the district for the past 28 years. I've always thought that Auburn was a great place to live in and raise a family. I'm married, I have 6 children, 3 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. I want Auburn and Cayuga County to be able to offer our future generations enough for them to remain living in our community. Too many young people continue to leave our community as their opportunities dwindle. In 1970, Auburn's population was about 35,000. By the year 2000, we were down to about 28,500 residents. The most recent numbers put Auburn at about 26,000. We need to reverse this trend and provide opportunities needed to keep our younger generations here. I've been employed at Auburn Correctional Facility for 30 years as a counselor and supervising guidance counselor. Many aspects of my career have helped prepare me to be a strong county legislator. I have successfully navigated a very large bureaucracy of state government and led a team of counselors for years. I've developed very good communication skills and teamwork through countless issues. With 800 plus employees at my workplace at any given time, the state has chosen me to represent them in public relations issues time and time again. I spearheaded the History Channel documentary, helped write the Images of America book, collaborated with the Cayuga Museum on projects, and chaired the 200-year anniversary project. The state continued to choose me for these projects as I demonstrated that I could get things done and represent them well. One of my major concerns is the quality and safety of our water. The importance of our water supply cannot be overstated. Protecting, preserving, and maintaining our water supply is paramount. The county, the city, and towns have been engaged in research, meetings, and plannings for years now, but our water quality appears to have gotten worse instead of improving. A letter from Auburn's mayor and a Wasco town supervisor dated 10/17, just a few days ago, presents a very dire situation for our water supply. When you compare our water supply to that of Flint, Michigan's disaster, as they did, everyone should be concerned. There are many serious issues facing our community, some new and some that have been plaguing our community for years. I will bring a strong spirit of collaboration to the county legislature, and working together, much more will be accomplished.
Thank you, Mr. Pendergrass. We'll now hear from Mr. Harding, who will ask questions of either or both of you. If they're for an individual member of the panel, you'll have 2 minutes and your opponent will have 1 minute to respond. If it's for both of you, we're going to go back and forth, and if it's for both, we're going to start with Mr. Pendergrass first. So, Mr. Harding.
Okay, thank you, Guy. I've asked a form of this question to other candidates who have participated in these forums, but I wanted to word it another way here. If you ask most county residents who their legislator is, they probably could not name them. While civic engagement is a two-way street, I wanted to ask both of you, what will you do to be an active leader in the community and have that active presence be seen by your constituents?
Mr. Pendergrass, you have 2 minutes on this.
Well, you have to be active in the community. I've been active in the community for my whole adult life. I'm currently a board member of the Perform for Purpose nonprofit organization, which really gets out into the community quite a bit. They do fantastic work. They raise money for all kinds of really good causes. If someone's dying of cancer, someone's house burned down, they're out there raising money. The kids they do a great job on stage. They perform. The money that they raise helps the community. I've been a member of the parent-teacher organization in the local school system. With all the kids I have, I've participated in Auburn Boys and Girls, Auburn Baseball, Pony League, Little League. I've been out there in parts of the community. You have to keep yourself involved in different activities. Most people that know me know I'm out and about doing stuff. There's a lot of different organizations. Being part, if elected to the county legislature, getting involved in more of the different committees that are out there will certainly be part of it, and really just delving into some of the department heads' issues which involve directly what's going on in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Pendergrass. Mr. Vito, 2 minutes on your role in the community.
Sure. So as I mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of the Auburn Downtown Business Improvement District. So I already do that on a daily basis. If anybody knows who I am, I talk widely all the time about partnerships and collaborations. And I have created that in our community for many years. I've been in the community for 20 years. So, collaborations with different partners, such as all the boards that I've mentioned, that I work on, the YMCA board, Booker T. Washington, all those things that I do on a daily basis help facilitate communication with my community. Certainly, meeting with department heads, meeting with folks that are having some concerns and listening to their everyday issues that they may face, something that we need to be open-minded to and really reach out to them. I already do that. Like I said, I've been doing that for a long time now, and it's something that is extremely important that we need to remember when we're talking to our constituents out in our community. They want to be listened to, and being a good listener is something that I really value and I think is extremely important. And again, fostering those relationships is something that is really crucial. Relationships is where it's at. So making sure that on a daily basis that we remember to engage with our community, engage with our city, engage with our county is really crucial to making important decisions and having success happen in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
So let's talk about Owasco Lake, Mr. Prendergast. You just mentioned this a short time ago in your opening statement. I wanted to get your reaction, both of you, to how the state has responded to water quality concerns. A group of local stakeholders developed updated watershed rules a few years ago, only to have the state put forth a separate set of revisions that omit much of what the local group proposed. Do you think the state is taking this problem seriously?
Ms. DeVito, you're up first with 2 minutes on Owasco Lake and the state's response.
Thank you. I advocate very strongly for the state to be taking our situation very seriously with the water. We have not heard from the state in regards to the rules and regulations that were proposed. And as we know, we have two types of protection that we have to look at through the water. We have land protection and drinking water. Our drinking water is crucial, not only for our health, but for recreation, for tourism, economic development, and businesses. If businesses don't have water to be able to conduct their business on a daily basis, that affects our economic development and affects our community. So looking at the constant pulse and the pressure to have on the state to really take a look at us is excruciatingly important. And we need to make sure that we don't let up on the pulse to really have it addressed strongly on what we need to have the safety and the health of our water. The treatment of our water and advocating for funding with our state to make sure that we have staff that can treat the water, chemicals that can treat the water. All those things we need from the state, and we need assistance for that. And we've been advocating for that for a very long time, for several years. And it's become a very serious situation where the health and the safety of our community is at risk if the state does not get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Mr. Prendergast on Owasco Lake and the state of New York.
Well, first, I'd like to believe that the state takes the issue seriously. If we get lost in their bureaucracy, that's obviously a major problem, but we can't sit back and wait for the state to do everything for us. I sat through some meetings a year or two ago that were presented up at BOCES, the 9-element plan, which seemed to make a lot of fundamental sense. There was a lot of people involved up there and a lot of good ideas presented, and I think we should move forward with some of the ideas. The water infrastructure, wastewater management, sewer, and the sewer systems. You look at the Owasco Lake watershed, there's approximately 4,100 septic systems in the watershed area. Even if 1 or 2 is at 2% of failure at any given time, you've got 80 plus septic systems at any given time polluting the watershed. Maybe we can expand. Maybe we could take some of the ARPA money left over that we have kicking around and try and expand our sewer systems. Obviously, it's a huge project getting around Owasco Lake, but every little bit helps. If you continue to extend the sewers year after year, eventually we'll start working towards some of these problems. The city officials in Auburn, they seem pretty unhappy, as recently stated, but you can demand action as they have and sit back and wait, or you can try to just put in action some of the ideas that are actually going to help our water supply. We need to reduce the phosphorus and nitrogen hitting our water supply. We need to figure out ways to do that. Help the farmers. Stop pointing the fingers. Help the farmers. Help them with some of the newer technologies that are available out there. The county get out there and work on culverts and streams and ditches and some of the problems that cause the runoff to hit our lakes. The water, you cannot understate the value of our water. Look at how much water Micron is going to need. 48 million gallons of water a day. What the Cayuga Milk Ingredients plant, they need a lot of water. I see my time is up, so.
Okay. You may get a chance in just a second to continue that. Ms. DeVito, you've asked for a minute to follow up, so you have 1 minute.
Yes, I do. So just for clarity, I just want to stress that the City of Auburn has had the pulse and the pressure on the state for a very long time, for several years now. So the City of Auburn has been advocating to get the TDML, and all these rules and regulations passed at the state. And so, there has been no stone unturned, and the city has been really activating to try to get assistance. But I also do want to remind everyone that at the county level, the current legislator majority, they voted to not have funding to protect our water. So, I want to make sure that we keep that in mind, that, the city has been advocating and putting the pulse on the state officials to help. So we have been doing everything we possibly can, and we don't have funding, and the county does not want to provide that funding to protect our water. That speaks volumes to me, and so therefore we have to keep the pressure on the state in order to come and aid us with the water.
Thank you. You'll have a minute as well, Mr. Pendergrass.
I'd just like to note that, the water problem's been going on for many years, and we've had changes in who's controlling the county government, whether it's Republican or Democrat. 2 years ago, it wasn't Republican, it was Democrat. And so the problem is just persistent. Instead of pointing the finger, I think everybody should just sit back and say, let's just do everything we can to improve the water quality, and hope the state's going to step in and eventually provide it. I would think if there were some common sense ideas in front of the county legislature, that they would move forward in providing those necessary funds, and I would support that.
So at the discretion of the moderator, we'll continue this discussion because it is a big issue, and so you've asked for another minute. You'll get a minute if you want as well, but Ms. DeVito.
So I just want to reiterate that, we go back to the county funding that, Mr. Pendergrass talks about. To me, in my mind, if you don't have funding and you're going to deny funding for the quality and the health of our community, that to jeopardize unsafe drinking water, that alone speaks volumes to me. If you have a majority of people that are not willing to fund the source for water, whether it is for staffing, whether it is for treatment, no matter what it is, we're talking about water. And we are talking about drinking water that our children drink, that our families drink, that we take showers in. And as I mentioned, our businesses can't do business without water. Mr. Pendergrass mentioned Micron. He is absolutely 100% right. Micron is going to need tons of water, and that water has to be safe. But the way I look at it, when you take a vote on that legislative body, and when you talk about funding water, and that's what it should be about, and the answer is no, that really speaks volumes to me as to where the priority is. Thank you.
Mr. Pendergrass, anything to add?
Well, to reiterate, this problem's been going on for many years. There's been a lot of different people in and out of the county government throughout that time frame, and we need to just focus on moving forward. The milk plant needs a ton of water, and any other project coming along. If we're going to entice people to come to our community, we need to have safe drinking water. I agree that if appropriate funding is requested, then it should be provided. I'm not exactly sure what the exact funding issues are that she's referring to that weren't funded on the water, but if I'm sitting on the county legislature, I'm looking at those issues very seriously.
Mr. Harding, welcome back for another question. That was an important subject.
It was. For years, there have been questions about the county's management structure. County administrators have come and gone. Now the legislature chair oversees the county's day-to-day operations. Do you support continuing this current model, or do you favor a different approach, such as hiring an administrator or establishing an elected county executive position?
For both candidates?
For both.
Mr. Pendergrass, you have 2 minutes on this.
So first, let me say I think Dave Gould's doing a great job. He's elected and then appointed to the chair, and not an easy task. I think myself, I would lean towards the county executive model, and the reason I say that is because it allows the people, the residents of the county, to vote. They decide who they want. You're talking about somebody that's heading up a $170 million business, in effect, when you're looking at the county budget and all the different expenditures. And we need a professional, and we should have the ability to remove that person through election process if need be. And other counties around us do different things. You could go to the Board of Supervisors, and that seems to work for some surrounding counties. And what we have right now with the county legislature appointing and the chair running is effective. But keep in mind that the county legislature is going from 15 to 11 in January. And that's a significant reduction in the amount of people working on all these problems and be involved in all the standing subcommittees that are necessary. And you're just putting more of a workload on somebody, and we really probably should have, at this point, a county executive. I think it works well with Onondaga County. They seem to be happy with that form of government. But ultimately, I think maybe creating a referendum, putting it on the ballot, letting the people choose, let them vote on who they want to head up their county.
Thank you, Mr. Pendergrass. Mr. Vito, 2 minutes on the issue of county management and structure.
Thank you. So I would definitely agree with Mr. Pendergrass. Chairman Gould has done a terrific job, as well as our past chairs, Aileen McNabb Coleman, did a phenomenal job as well. However, I will take a different approach as Mr. Pendergrass with this, and I will advocate for a county professional manager. I agree entirely that there needs to be somebody on premises to run the daily operations, but focusing on daily operations, that the person may have all the experience and the skill set to manage an organization such as the county in its size. So whereas the elected chairs have done well, somebody who has that experience, who's managed a county before, who's managed a large organization, that can work a 40, 50-hour week if need to be, and only focuses on that daily operation seat is something that I think is really important. As elected officials, we all know our time gets taken away in many different directions, and I think someone who can be just a professional manager and not have to worry about the elected official side of things and just focus on daily operations would be very beneficial to the county and in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
The Cayuga Economic Development Agency received $375,000 in the 2023 county budget and has been supported by the county for years. After the firing of the agency's executive director in August, CEDA is facing some uncertainty and questions about its future. First question on this topic for both of you is, should the county continue to fund CEDA?
Okay, Mr. Vito, you're up first.
So I want to say economic development is definitely very near and dear to my heart. As you all know, I mentioned the executive director of the Auburn Business District. That's what I do for my job. Economic development is very important to me, and it's very important to our county. And I feel that we need to have funding for economic development. What that looks like in the moment is something that we need to look at. I am highly in favor of funding for economic development for the county. We definitely need that. I trust the folks that are at the table right now to make those decisions as to how economic development will look in the future. In regards to CEDA, CEDA could be some sort of an umbrella under CCIDA or have some sort of seat at the table when it comes to economic development. But again, we will be able to see what happens with those folks that are around the table that are looking to see what is going to be in the best interest of the county and in regards to economic development for the organization.
Mr. Pendergrass, 2 minutes on the issue of economic development and CEDA.
So to answer the question whether or not they should be funded, I don't think that's an easy yes or no answer at this point. I think more needs to be known about how effective that $375,000. They'd asked for $410,000. They were allotted $375,000 this year. And going forward, I'm sure that money will increase on a yearly basis with inflation. But there's a lack of communication apparently between the county legislature, the Cayuga County Economic Planning and Development Subcommittee, and communication, obviously, if you don't have communication between the departments and where your money is being spent, then you can understand the frustration and the desire to maybe defunct or defund the CETA. Whether or not that's a good idea or not, I don't know. There's some good people working in CETA. They've been productive. They did a great job with the Cayuga milk ingredients, and maybe not as effective in some of the other areas. I've heard some people up in the northern part of the county complaining about lack of assistance from CETA, but there's probably a place for it, but where is that? Is it under the Cayuga County Industrial Development Agency? Is it a part of, as Mr. DeVito states, is it a part of the arm there? Does Bob Shea and his subcommittee want to take that and mold it? Can we take parts of CETA and put it in the CCIDA? Can we actually get them to work together well and functioning so the taxpayers get what they're paying for? $375,000 is a significant amount, so let's tweak it if need be.
Mr. Vito, you indicated you wanted another minute?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to make clear also that, I believe in CETA, and I believe that also, as Mr. Pettigrew stated, they've done some really great things. They've worked with a lot of businesses, they've worked with a lot of organizations that really depended on them to either start their business, to expand their business, to have sustainability for their business. So again, as I stated earlier, where does CETA kind of fit in all of that? It could be definitely an arm of the CCIDA and part of what the county does moving forward. But I just want to reiterate that, whatever decision is made for the county, that, I am a huge advocate of economic development, and we definitely need that in our county, and the funding needs to be there for that organization that goes ahead and facilitates the economic development piece for the county. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Just as a follow-up, I did want to ask about just generally funding for economic development from the county's perspective, because they are taxpayer dollars. So just wanted to get your thoughts on just the general idea, whether it's through CCIDA, CETA, both, whatever the combination is, this idea of funding using county dollars to fund economic development programs.
Mr. Pettigrew, you're up first.
So I think it goes without saying that it's very important that we continue forward with economic development in one form or another, whether it's CETA or put some other name on it. But we've got the opportunity now with Micron coming. We've got other things growing, the milk plants, the Falcon addition. We need people in place that are very well informed and moving us forward. There's a lot of people involved, and funding is definitely needed. Whether or not, like I said, whether it's under the title of CETA or something else, we can't leave it behind.
Thank you. Mr. Vito, you'll have 2 minutes on this issue of the county's role in economic development.
Yes, I would agree. We most definitely need funding for economic development. And as I just mentioned a few seconds earlier, it's crucially important. Attracting businesses, again, the sustainability of businesses, the retention of businesses is all going to be a win-win for our county. And without funding to help hire the staff that we need, and we have some very strong staff as it is. We have the Planning and Economic Development Department of the county. We have the City Planning Department. We have a lot of experts that are at the table that really bring in economic development throughout our entire county. And so therefore it's crucial that we have funding for these positions so that we continue all the great work that has already been done. And we want to continue elevating the economic development that is in Cayuga County and being able to attract people. So I am highly in favor of funding for economic development.
Thank you. We just want to let our viewers know we're about halfway through, well, exactly halfway through our forum for the 10th Legislative District, which is a new district which is in the southeast quadrant of the city of Auburn. We have both candidates here in the order that they drew lots. Stephanie DeVito, who is on the Democratic and Working Families line, as well as Mr. Pettigrew, who is on the Republican and Conservative lines. They're being asked questions by Robert Harding, the political reporter for The Citizen. Mr. Harding.
Cayuga County neighbors Onondaga County, where a major economic development project will be developed over the next several years. With Micron's planned investment in central New York, what will you do to ensure that the county and city can benefit from this project?
Okay. And I believe Ms. DeVito is up first on this one.
Okay, great, thank you. So fortunately, I have been very involved with Micron. I sit on the Micron Workforce Development Committee. So we've been looking at these things for the last 6 months, and things that we're looking at how we can prepare Cayuga County for Micron are such as identifying barriers that we have in our own county that will make us marketable for Micron to come, such as transportation, daycare. We look at those two things as being barriers that we've been focusing on in this particular committee. How can we make those changes to be attractive for Micron, for our own community that would like to go have jobs out in Syracuse with Micron? We've looked at the school district and the education aspect of making sure that the skill sets are there for the kids to be trained so that by the time Micron actually comes around, these students are prepared to go into those careers and those jobs. We look at several different things as far as the Tier 2 and Tier 3 jobs that we have here currently in Cayuga County. And we look at those jobs that may go into Onondaga County. So not only we know Micron's coming, but we need to do that for our county in general anyway. We need to backfill those jobs. So if we have a lot of jobs that leave our county, go to Micron, we don't want to lose that in our county either. So we need to make sure that we are on top of that so that we know how we can backfill those two sector of jobs. And again, not only for Micron, but focusing on our county regardless. You know, jobs is what creates success here in our county. And I have been very heavily involved in the Workforce Development Committee with Micron. And as we know, there's a housing committee, there's energy, there's land. So the city and county has been thoroughly vested in preparing to be able to be successful with the incoming of Micron. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pendergast, on this issue of the county's role in Micron.
So there is a steering committee headed up by Dave Gould, and he oversees the 4 different boards that are that she just mentioned, the major sites, the energy, the housing, and the workforce development. They're all important, and you start breaking them down. There's all kinds of people working on this. When you really look at the picture, Micron in Clay, New York is a decent drive from Auburn. It's a shorter drive from different northern parts of Cayuga County. Probably the easiest, more accessible, maybe the Cato, Ira areas, maybe about 22 miles from the site. We need to make our county attractive enough for people working and doing business with Micron to be willing to leave Clay, New York and drive through other communities until they get to Cayuga County. So you have to make it worth their while. So there's a lot of infrastructure issues. One of the major issues, I believe, is broadband. If you're a high-paid Micron employee and you're looking for a home, you're looking for a place to live, you need broadband, and you're probably not going to want to live in a location that doesn't provide broadband. We have gaps in our in different parts of our county, including the northern part of our county, with broadband, and I think that we need to continue working on it. I know there's work being done on it right now, but we need to move forward with that. That's a significant issue for anybody, I think, that wants to work or live in the area, having to do with the Micron supply chains and support businesses. They're talking about 9,000 Micron jobs, but maybe about 3,000 in the first phase, a $20 billion fabrication plant, but upwards of 40 to 50,000 support and supply chain jobs. So we really need to be focusing on that and being able to provide the infrastructure, whether it's hospitals, how's your public safety, I'm sorry, I think I ran out of time.
It's okay. You can finish your statement. Go ahead.
So we need to focus on the infrastructure. And broadband, I think, is one of our key lacking elements right now.
Okay. You'll have 1 minute, and we'll come back to Mr. Pendergast if he would like another minute.
Okay, sure. So, Mr. Pendergast talks about infrastructure. Not that I deny that is something important that we need to look at, because we certainly do. But, two very important things, as I mentioned earlier, is transportation and daycare. If we can't have transportation to have our employees get to Clay, And if we don't have daycare for the employees to be able to find a job, to be able to get to Clay, those two areas, and we've had many discussions with Micron, that they themselves has identified as being barriers in Cayuga County. So whereas the infrastructure, it all is important. We have to focus on every aspect of it. But in my mind, those are definitely two very important things. If we don't have transportation and figure out how people can get to Onondaga County, as well as the daycare aspect, then our hands are kind of tied, and we don't want to do that to the community members that we want to help, and we just want to make sure that there isn't any barriers that are going to affect their careers.
Thank you. Mr. Pendergrass, I know you stopped on public safety, so I want to give you another minute if you wished.
So, going back to the infrastructure, hospitals and healthcare, public safety, water availability, once again, sewer, in broadband. I mean, what are you looking for when you want to move? If you're going to be working at the Micron plant and you're going to live in Weedsport or Cato, New York, what are you looking for? Are you going to be happy if you don't have broadband? Are you going to be unhappy if you call 911 and it takes 15 minutes for a county sheriff to get to you? So those are the issues, and just need to continue moving forward with the infrastructure as they are currently working on.
Okay. Did you want another minute?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment.
Sure.
So
Mr. Pendergrass will get the same time.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So whereas, Mr. Pendergrass is absolutely right, I agree with those things as well. Again, I can't stress enough that if we don't have the attraction of transportation or daycare, and specifically even transportation, if we don't have those services, we are not even going to attract people into our community to be able to access the hospitals, to be able to do all these other things, or to be able to even have the opportunity for broadband. So, everything has to be looked at again, as I said earlier. But, if there's not transportation, and people need transportation, I mean, a lot of people have vehicles, but a lot of them don't, especially in those 2-tier and 2-3 job sectors. So, we need to make sure that that is really facilitated, because that will not even attract people to come here. They won't even take a look at Cayuga County.
Mr. Pendergrass, anything to add?
So, I mean, if you're working at Micron, you're going to get on Route 370 or 31, 370, you're going to hop on the thruway. How are you going to get back and forth to where you're going? But ultimately, we need to make ourselves desirable enough as a county to make it worth your while to drive 45, 50 minutes to get to where you're going in Cayuga County, as opposed to the 10, 15, 20 minutes that you can get to in the other closer suburbs. We have to have that attraction, and the infrastructure obviously is important.
Mr. Harding.
Thanks, Guy. I wanted to address the topic of population decline, because most of New York's 62 counties lost population, including Cayuga County, according to the 2020 census. While state policies may be a factor in this decline, is there anything our county can do to make Cayuga an appealing place to live?
Mr. Pendergrass, I think you have the first shot at this question about population.
Well, I think maybe marketing is a simple thing. You want to bring people in. You want to get people. Some of the bigger employers, the hospital, the county, the prison, and some of these other places that we're talking about. If you want to come work for the county, you have to take a civil service test. Some simple things like marketing, make it attractive to people. Hey, maybe we eliminate the cost for taking a civil service test. Maybe we change the requirements, tweak it to make it more appealing. I think that we could do a better job of marketing our area, and with the Micron, once again going back to Micron, with it coming into our area, we need to take advantage of it to the fullest extent, and we could do that with marketing and promoting Cayuga County, and I think that there's a lot to be said for that. We could maybe grasp upwards of 10% of that market if marketed properly.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vito, on this issue of the population decline for Cayuga County.
Sure. As you stated, Mr. Harding, the population is declining all across our state and all across our country for many different reasons. So, I think one of the things that Cayuga County could definitely do is we could definitely be more competitive with our jobs, right? You know, Mr. Prendergast touches on the civil service test. That continues to look at to see if we can restructure that. Even on a state level, there's a movement to see if we can restructure that. So that's not necessarily a barrier for folks that are looking to come into Q County to obtain a job. You know, the cost to take the tests, you know, that is definitely something we can look at to see if that can be altered. But we most definitely have to be competitive no matter what we do, and removing any sort of barriers. You know, Mr. Prendergast talked about broadband. Absolutely. We need to have broadband out in our county. It's raising the standard of living. It's a quality of life issue as well as a digital divide if we don't have it. Everyone deserves equal access to any sort of information. And then you talk about broadband. What does that do? That fosters students not being able to take online classes. So, you know, you really kind of filter down into the quality of life that we want to make sure that we portray here in our county that is going to attract people. I mean, we all know we're very rich in our history and our culture, our historical and cultural sites that we have in the city of Auburn. We have a terrific education system. We have Cayuga Community College right here. So we have a lot already, and we have to figure out ways that we are not going to create barriers for folks to come into our county, such as, you know, trying to restructure the civil service test to make our jobs more competitive through benefits, through, you know, salaries. You know, we have to make sure we have funding that will provide the salaries to be competitive from the other counties and within the even in the state and the country. So there's many things that we could definitely look at doing to bring people in, and agreed, you know, marketing is also one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
The county's budget process is underway for 2024. In my experience talking to elected officials, no one wants to raise taxes, but they want to maintain or sometimes increase the level of services offered by the government. In the county's case, how do we strike that balance? How do we keep taxes low while also maintaining services for county residents?
Ms. DeVito, you're up first on this issue of the county services and taxes.
Sure. So as we know, it's always challenging, right? No matter what community you're in, no matter where you are in the country, as the county has a $170 million budget, you know, the way I look at things to try to help not raise taxes, you know, is best that we can. We look at partnerships, we look at collaborations, we look at streamlining services through partnerships. That doesn't mean decreasing the services, it doesn't mean decreasing staff. It may be we're looking at things of doing things a little bit smarter and streamlining through our partnerships and our collaborations to make sure that all our services are provided and that we don't have to raise taxes if we don't need to. Certainly there are situations where, you know, that does have to occur so that we don't jeopardize the services that we all are expected to have. So, you know, it's always a tricky balance, just like it is in our own households. We all have to budget for certain things, and we have to cut back on certain things to make things work. But I think overall, it's partnerships, it's collaborations, it's being smart. It's being smart with doing less to make sure that, you know, our taxes won't increase and we can still maintain all the services that we're used to having on a daily basis in our community.
Thank you, Mr. DeVito. Mr. Prendergast, 2 minutes on this issue of the county budget.
So I think one of the things that would be important to do is to continue and moving forward with the discussions with department heads. Department heads obviously know their departments better than anybody, and if we're looking to streamline or to save money in certain areas, we should be looking at them to provide us with the best way to streamline their own departments. So if we're looking at collaboration, if we're looking at talking with people, all that's great. The overlapping services, as this District 10 is solely within the city of Auburn, there's overlapping services. We have the city and the county, in some instances, providing the same services. Maybe we could save some money there. When was the last time the city and the county actually sat down and talked about overlapping services and how they could streamline and save each other some money? I think that maybe that's something that we should be looking at. And going back to the department heads, I think that they're in the best position to tell us where they could save money. There's a lot of great people working in the departments that we have running, and if you want to cut back on something, what are you going to do? You're going to ask them, okay, this is your budget. Where can you save 2, 3, 4, 5%? Show us what we can do. Give us some ideas. We'll come back. We'll discuss it, and maybe we'll move forward some of those. But no one wants to raise taxes. I think we had a 1.5% increase in this past fiscal year. Not a horrible number, but nonetheless, no one wants a raise. So it's probably incumbent upon anybody as a county legislator to spend the time with the department heads to figure out where it is that we can save that money.
Mr. Vito, you wanted a minute to follow up?
Yes, thank you. So I agree as well. I just want to acknowledge that the department heads, they do a phenomenal job. I have been going to the legislator meetings, the special committee meetings for over a year now, and I see firsthand what a phenomenal job all those department heads do. And I've scoured the budget, and I see what they do on a daily basis to try to save and try to streamline and do the best they can for the county. I think it's really important that we also mention, the city works tirelessly to try to work with the county. And what I see from my standpoint is, we have a majority right now that really creates a division between the city. So, we can streamline things with the city, but it's not for a lack of effort that the city has not worked with the county. We want to work with the county. It happens every day, and we want to just have that open-armed relationship that the county wants to work with the city as well. Thank you.
Mr. Pendergrass, anything to add?
No, I think if we can collaborate and get together, certainly I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that getting the city and county together to work on what we have of overlapping services to save money. I'd be hard-pressed to find somebody think that's a bad idea. As a taxpayer, I'm paying city taxes, I'm paying county taxes. If we could figure out a way to save each other a little bit of money, let's do it.
Mr. Harding.
Great. I wanted to circle back on this question of child care, because it was mentioned during the Micron discussion. I know that there's just in Auburn and in other communities across the county that child care is there's a real need there. So what can the county government do to help address this problem? Because certainly it'll take some collaboration, I think, but also some willingness from governmental agencies to help solve this problem. So just wanted to put that to you. What would you advocate for as a county legislator in this regard?
Mr. Pendergrass? You said 6 children?
I have 6 children, and I can tell you I've spent a lot of money over the years in daycare. My youngest child, when we finished up with daycare with her, it was costing us about $10,000 a year, and that was with not paying it through the summer months. So I understand the cost of daycare. It's a significant concern. There's a lot of private businesses out there. There's a lot of people running daycares on other homes. There's a lot of people out there that have waiting lists. You're trying to get on a waiting list. If you go to Cayuga County, Cayuga Onondaga, BOCES, I'm sorry, or you go up to right here to Cayuga Community College, typically there's a waiting list. You want your child in daycare, you're on a waiting list. Maybe we could expand some of those programs. We can probably, there was some impetus for some small business grants out there that perhaps could be utilized in the appropriate way. But you're talking about a myriad of issues when you're talking daycare, transportation, just to get to daycare. What the county can do, I think, you've got different departments that maybe can assist, but I think maybe just getting more public knowledge of what is out there, what's available. When I was looking for daycare, I struggled to find listings of availabilities of places that provided daycare. We were lucky enough after a while to get off the waiting list and get into BOCES, and they provided fantastic daycare. So maybe expanding a program like that would be helpful.
Thank you. Mr. Vito, you'll have 2 minutes on this issue of child care.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I 100% agree. Child care, not only here but across the country, is certainly something that is a barrier and obstacles in many communities. We certainly know we have some phenomenal daycares and child care institutions here in our county. Mr. Pendergrass mentioned BOCES. We have CCC. We have other individual home care providers. But I think where I see a trend also is there's not that many caregivers that are going into that field as a career. So I think we can look at a couple of things. Certainly we need funding that is going to, help provide assistance to some maybe daycare providers that want to open up, in our county. But then also the pitch for folks to enter in that career field when they get out of school and take an interest in that, because I think it's kind of twofold. I think we lack the amount of folks that are entering into that career, as well as the funding to have the accessibility to have space in our county, as far as a venue to put that daycare. And, we look at many things, and we've talked about this in the Micron Workforce Development Committee and so that other sectors within my job of folks that were thinking about opening up a daycare, even downtown. Where is that daycare going to be positioned where folks that have the ability to, walk their child to the daycare? Not everybody has the transportation. How is daycare located next to a bus stop? That is also important to some people. So there's many different aspects I think the county could look at. Again, reiterating from, looking at education. Education is power, as I say all the time, encouraging folks to go into that field, as well as the funding and as well as the locations of the daycare that will be helpful for folks that have careers in our county.
Okay, so we're going to go with Mr. Harding with your last question. This is for both, and we're going to end up with Ms. DeVito answering it first, so everybody got a fair shot at first round. So.
There we go. All right.
Mr. Harding.
So this will be a bit of a test of how well you're following the current legislature. Next week, it's expected that legislators will vote on approving the use of $1 million from the American Rescue Plan to support the construction of a new 83-bed emergency shelter on Grand Avenue in Auburn. This would replace the existing shelter that's there now. If you were a legislator on the current panel, would you support this if you were in the legislature?
Mr. DeVito, you'll have 2 minutes on this.
Yes, I would absolutely support this. I think, as we all know, public safety is extremely important. We talk about fire, we talk about police, there EMS, there's many aspects of public safety that is crucial not only to, our county, our constituents, our entire community. And I think that certainly, we talk about streamlining things, right? Here in a couple of the last questions we had, this is something that has been well needed. That can be a training facility, and it can really incorporate the city of Auburn as well as Cayuga County, and be very, very useful and something that has been, really long coming for the county. So I highly support this, 100%.
Mr. Pendergrass, on this issue of the vote for American Rescue funds next week?
I think it makes sense. It's something that's been needed for a long time. Is 83 beds enough? We need to use the American Rescue Plan funds. There's a time frame on it, and they've been working on this issue, and quite frankly, it's something that we probably really should move forward with. There's a definite need for it. I guess I wonder, is 83 beds enough? So, before we lose the money, I know there's time frames on all this, and we should utilize the money in an appropriate way. This seems like an appropriate use.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harding, for your questions. We're going to now go to closing statements. Mr. Pendergrass gets to go first, and he has 2 minutes for his closing.
Thank you.
You are, and just so people know, he is on the Republican and Conservative lines. Mr. Pendergrass.
So I'm sure that most share my concerns over the water quality issue. We need to stop pointing fingers and put into action the more logical parts of the solution. We need to reduce the amount of phosphorus and nitrogen entering our water supply. Some of the methods presented in the 9-element plan that was developed by a consortium of agencies, government officials, and scientific-minded people should be implemented, as we seemingly have the ability to do so. We are very fortunate as a community that we have Cayuga Community College. Well, with the current forward-thinking leadership at the college, we should continue to move forward in providing a skills development program for the chip industry. Planning and taking advantage of the anticipated needs of Micron workforce is logical. The ongoing opioid crisis needs continued attention. The percentage of preventable deaths is too high. Seemingly almost everyone has been touched in some way by this crisis. Our county agencies continue to work and develop coalitions with involved agencies like Nix Ride and HEAL. Setting up better safety nets and continuing to improve services are needed. Increasing training and education will help in preventing and combating these issues. Many people in our community have suffered tragedies that could have been prevented. We should all have a common goal that our community provides enough economic opportunity to make it feasible for our future generations to remain living in our community and be able to provide a desirable quality of life. Being able to find and maintain a happy balance between an affordable cost of living and that quality of life we seek is obtainable with the proper leadership. I want to be the bridge between the residents of the District 10 and the decision and solution-making process in the county legislature. I will be a responsive public servant, and I would expect our county offices to do the same. My decades of experience in guidance and counseling while working for the state government has helped me position me to be an effective county legislator. By trade, I'm a good listener, and I'll always want to hear your concerns. When you elect someone to represent you, you entrust in them that they will make informed decisions for the betterment of all, and I will do this. I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pendergrass. We'll now hear from Stephanie DeVito, who is on the Democratic and Working Families line. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to take a moment to thank the organizers of this event, as well as my opponent, for their attendance. I would also like to remind the voters that they can still effect meaningful change within their own community. Success is a sense of decisions and blessings. I present myself to you as a vehicle for change and progress. There are actions we can take to change course and turn Cayuga County into a home for success. Instead of our own people leaving in search of something to do, we ourselves can become to go to the destination. If nurtured and given the proper care, our home could set the example for all of New York State. Voters are faced with a choice: success or failure, to sink or to swim. Only future generations will know what we decide. A favorite Mother Teresa quote of mine is, "I can do things you cannot. You can do things I cannot. Together, we can do great things." Vote for me on November 7th if you agree that we can do better and that our people deserve better. Thank you for your time.
We want to thank both candidates for the 10th Legislative
you.
District for
Thank you.
joining us today.
Thank
We want to thank you not only for being here in the studio and answering Mr. Harding's great questions, but we also want to thank you for putting yourselves out there. Campaigns are long, they're arduous, and we thank you for taking the time to do this and being committed to public service. We also want to thank Mr. Harding for his questions. He'll be off next week as we do a couple of one-on-one interviews with some candidates because opponents have not responded to our invitation, but he'll be back at the end of the month with the City Council and Mayor's races, and we look forward to a change of pace on what the questionings might be. And finally, we want to thank you for taking the time over the last hour to listen to these two legislative candidates and urge you to go out and vote if you're in their district or any of the voting districts that you are in on November 7th, or remember that you can start voting on Saturday, October 28th with early voting. We will return on Tuesday with the 6th Legislative District candidate, Aileen McNabb Coleman, in the studio as she seeks re-election for the district that includes Owasco and Senate right now and will continue to include Owasco and Senate in the new year. Her opponent in the newly created 5th Legislative District, Joshua Chiz, has a work commitment and is unable to participate in the forum. And as per our past practice since 2006, if one candidate accepts an invitation, their opponent declines, we do a one-on-one interview still with the candidate who is accepted. Well, that will be followed by all three candidates for the county clerk who will be in to the studio. It'll include Conservative Christine Lytle, Republican Chris Petras, and Democrat Brian Scanlon here in the studio to make presentations. And then we will return with our normal programming after that on November 14th and 16th with our regular Inside Government and Beyond the Front Page program. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. Have a good night, have a great tomorrow, and we will be back in the studio on Tuesday.